Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the Underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go.
Wait.
What? What?
We can't do that intro. All your other shows like Radio Razor Crest and Live from Lothal and
That's how it's pronounced, yeah.
What was the Clone Wars one? Continuing Clone. They're all alliterations.
Yeah, that's the name of the show. Yeah.
Okay,
Continuing Clone Wars with Dominic and Kieran. That's definitely the name of the show, not the Clone Wars Strikes Back.
The Clone Wars Strikes Back. You should change it to Continuing Clone Wars because you got all alliteration names. You know?
I'll call Kieran tomorrow and tell him.
We're changing the name.
The Clone Wars Strikes Back is obviously better. But anyway, but we don't have our own intro for this show.
No, I suppose we don't. I suppose we don't.
What are we going to do about that?
So I think I have my guitar here, and I think if I just play the riff, and then in the spaces where it's the solo riff, I'll just do hello there in the first one, and then we'll each take turns in the spaces saying hello there, our Obi-Wan impersonation.
I don't know. This seems really complicated. I don't know if we'll be able to do this.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to end, but we'll improvise.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Hello there.
Hello there.
Hello there. Hey, there we go. We got our intro written.
There we go. Perfect intro, flawlessly executed. Well, hello again, everybody. Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to... I'm not even sure what this is. This is a special edition of the Star Wars Underworld podcast, subtitled The Kenobi Kastaways. This is our look back at the Obi-Wan Kenobi series as a whole. We'll be going over all 6 episodes with a fine-tooth comb. Who knows how long this episode will go for? Could be 20 minutes, could be 20 hours. We'll see. We'll find out. But it's going to be a great discussion. First, though, introductions are in order in case you're new to the show or you've forgotten who we are. That can happen. My name is Dominic Jones, and with me, the guitarist himself, who came up with this absurd idea from F105. It's Dan.
Yeah, I think when we did that first, when we did that whole at Star Wars Underworld audio intro live that one time, you guys called it like the peak top moment of the show, and I'm sorry that I just gave you the lowest moment. That's the performing art.
I don't know.
One night you just kill it, and the next you bomb.
Who's up there?
I don't know. We have over 10 years of episodes. I'm sure we could find a moment that's lower. I'm sure that one has happened at some point or another. But yeah, I'd say that's a solid bottom 5.
Yeah, that doesn't make me feel better.
Also with us, being interrupted by the guitar again, apparently. Rock and roll. Hannah Raeside, welcome back.
G'day there, which I'm going to change the hello there phrase to g'day there, I think, for this series specifically. So good to be here. Kenobi, lots of things to go through and go over and unpack, even though it's been about 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks? Yeah, over 2 weeks since the finale episode. There is a lot of reflection, I think, to be done with the fantastic series. So good to be here. I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, these last 2 Wednesdays have just been so disappointing as days, not having Obi-Wan to watch. You know, Miss Marvel's done a good job, filling the Disney Plus gap, but I got so every Star Wars show this happens, I get so used to having that new episode on a Wednesday or a Friday, depending on the show, and then those first couple of Wednesdays afterwards, you go through the whole day feeling like something's missing. I'm supposed to be doing something today that I haven't done. Yeah,
right?
Something missing. So hopefully this will this will fill the void for, I guess by the time this comes out, it'll be week 3 without Obi-Wan Kenobi. So maybe this will help fill the void there a little bit. I feel I should plug a few things, although given the way that intro went, I'm not sure I want to. But please subscribe to the Star.
We gotta do Good Day there. Come on.
Good day there. Nailed it. There it is.
Beautiful. And that's why you should punch that subscribe button, Chewy, for just classic content like that. This is a pre-recorded.
Can't get it anywhere else.
This is a pre-recorded episode, so you can't super chat with us. But theoretically, you could next time. You could become a channel member, and you can subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/the SWU, and tweet us at the SWU, and send in listener feedback to swunderworld@gmail.com. There we go. All right, let's get into Kenobi. And we'll start sort of how we always do these discussions, which is just sort of a go around the table, give some, I won't say initial impressions, because it's been long enough that I feel like we've all had our initial impressions and we've had enough time to sort of live with the show that I can ask for overall impressions of the series. And, don't feel you have to go too deep on these, because we will go into, I'm sure, a lot of what's raised in this portion as the episode goes on. But Hannah, we'll throw to you first. It's just your overall thoughts on Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Well, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, I think did a lot of new things for Star Wars. And I do like to say that after a new piece of content, that it showed us something new. It cinematically, storytellingly, and characterly, none of those are words, but it showed us new elements of all those things. Right. I loved it. I really enjoyed every week. Every week I looked forward to what was going to happen next. And at the end of it, we got our finale, and it was a perfectly wrapped up parcel for me. I felt like it tied up all the loose ends that it would start in the start of the series, and it all came together really nicely, like a little parcel for us of some beautiful nostalgia and some really cool characters, new characters, and yeah, really enjoyed it. I've got very few and they're very particular things that I could maybe pick at and go, not sure how I enjoy that, but overall, really happy and positive views on the series as a whole. But yeah, happy days from me. Happy days are here again. Din, what about you? Your overall thoughts on Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Just first reassuring you both that I've put away the guitar.
It's still haunting. I still have the dun.
But how are we going to do the outro? How are we going to do the outro? Those are
right there. It's right there. It's dangerously close. And I was giggling. I was enjoying what you were saying there, Hannah. Wasn't.
Thank you.
I was just laughing at the three of us because it's like 3 peas in a pod with that caps and the Star Wars shirts.
We're wearing caps. We did not even plan this. Look at us.
Look
at it. It's all black. Oh wow.
Yeah, I know. It's like we're in a band and we just sing.
A power trio.
We just sing the strangest covers of Star Wars songs. Yeah. Our only lyrics are variations on "Hello there." You get "Good day" there, get "Bonjour" there, "Aloha" there. I can't think of any more. Ciao there. I can't think of any more names.
How are you doing there? Someone's got to take.
Remember when I said it was. Remember when I said it was going to be hard to edit things because we're on video.
Leave it in. Leave it. Oh my god.
Hello there. Okay. Honestly, like everyone was, people were seeing my my really thoughtful, in-depth responses to Kenobi and saying, "You should do a podcast." So here we are, and I'm really letting everyone down because not just on that.
We're almost.
We're almost 10 minutes in.
What
did you think of Obi-Wan Kenobi? That was the question.
I don't want people to get the wrong idea. All I've had today is too much coffee. I'm not
I think we have that idea.
Yeah, that's come through loud and clear.
There's no spice involved here. Okay. What did I really want to hear what Hannah didn't like too, because I want to have a really good discussion about all of what we've really felt about everything. And I will say, aside from one canon issue, and I'm never someone to have a canon issue, because I think there's, even in George's movies, he has canon issues with himself. It does kind of screw up one thing in A New Hope for me. But other than that, it was perfect.
Yeah. Perfection. I want to know what this issue is. What does it mess up in A New Hope?
Okay. And by perfect, I really mean that both Picasso and George Lucas said art is only emotion. And I really feel that. I really feel that. Yeah. You don't enjoy any art, no matter how good it is. You don't enjoy it unless you feel something from it. Someone could say, and you could be watching something or seeing something and be like, I agree, this is a work of virtuosity. It's genius. Like some people when they watch Citizen Kane and they can't see it, and they can't feel it, but it's because you're maybe watching with eyes now that don't really see it the way it would have been seen back then when it was so boundary pushing. But that's beside the case. Really, what I mean is every minute of this show, from the start to the end, without an off minute, was moving me emotionally in some way, and in a good emotional way. So even the canon stuff that kind of conflicts with canon didn't matter so much because it was touching me the right way, making me feel stuff that I really enjoyed. So having said that, and now I was actually also thinking today that really kind of, it is still kind of the best order to watch Star Wars, sort of in the way it was released, because that way the canon things don't mess with you as much. Like, I think if you watch A New Hope before this, what happens in this won't really change your perception of something in A New Hope unless you watch it after. And so when, even if just you take A New Hope, Star Wars, on the way it was released in 1977, Luke just loses Ben, someone he's known for 2 days, and Leia loses her whole family and her whole planet to a mass fracking genocide. And she's comforting Luke as he's sitting there depressed at the table. You have to be kidding me. Maybe that's a statement about female emotional maturity or something. That's the way I look at it when I read it. I have to read it that way for it to make sense. But come on, she just lost her family and whole planet to genocide. But now it's sort of even worse because she has the real connection with Ben, more than Luke even. How would she forget that everything that happened? That would be life-forming and life-changing for her. So even when she says, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars, he'd be like, well, years ago I rescued you, and saved your life, and we went gallivanting around the galaxy together, and chased by the most baddest people in the whole entire galaxy of trillions and trillions of people.
That's it's a good point. Good point. Yeah, I hadn't considered that, but I will say, I've always sort of been of the opinion that you watch Star Wars in release order. I think that's the way it was designed. As much as George may say you start with episode 1, you got to start with episode 4. That's the entry point to the universe. And everything else that comes after it is informed by what has come after it.
Yeah.
As
but
a
an
whole.
Emotional level too. It's not the details of canon. I feel like those are, even though I still call this perfect because it's insignificant to me to have problems with canon if you're feeling great emotions from art. That's what it's all about. So if you watch it in release order, then the emotional stuff you're getting in this show
It works.
Mm.
It works. Let's talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi, the character, because ultimately, this series, these 6 episodes, are his journey, and so I think we should start by doing a bit of a deep dive into him. And so, Dan, I'll throw it to you to sort of kick things off. What did you think of the way we were introduced to Obi-Wan and where he's at in those first couple of episodes?
Well, I was kind of hoping you would go to Hannah because I just feel like I just ran there.
No.
All right,
Take it away,
Hannah,
my friend.
Hannah, by all means.
I know what you're gonna say. I'll go after her. I want to hear.
Well, I'm glad because I have a lot to say about his character.
I'm a co-host. This is like my first. I'm a co-host, right? Because like I came up with the idea.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah. You just tell me when to speak.
Escape myself.
Just sitting here.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm firing myself because I'm horrible at it. Take it away, John.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Bring it back. Let's bring it back.
Let's just reel it all back
This
in.
Was my favorite, almost one of my favorite elements of the whole show was his character arc and his portrayal in the first, right off the bat in the first episode, but as it develops and how we see him in the end and how that is a full circle to how we see him at the start. And it reminded me a lot of how we see Luke in The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Jedi. He's a Jedi. He's a Force user. Someone who's spent their life trying to give to others, be compassionate, and Obi-Wan specifically is a very hopeful character. I like to think in Clone Wars he was always the voice of kind of reason to Anakin and to those around him. Like he was this hopeful person and hopeful man, and we meet him at such a hopeless point, which for me was quite a satisfying, not a shock because I kind of expected it, but a satisfying point to see him at, because it would be strange if he still was like, we can fix the world and fix the galaxy, like after what he just went through. And, everyone always talks about like the absolute list of traumatic things he's gone through is astounding, of Satine dying in his arms, Maul coming back and the mentality and mental challenge of that. And then, all the Jedi burning, and it's because of his Padawan. Like the layer upon layer of trauma that would bring to someone is insane. And I think where we meet him, like I said, where we meet him is so perfect of being so hopeless. And I always found it strange, funny enough, in the first episode when we met, I'm going to forget his name, but that random young sort of Jedi on Tatooine, and he comes to Obi-Wan and he's like, you got to help me, you got to, I always found that strange in the first episode. I'm like, that's kind of weird. And he like dies like 2 seconds later. I'm like, that's kind of pointless. But in the scheme of things, it shows how defensive and just not nonchalant, but just Obi-Wan completely palms that away. Completely palms the Jedi Order, the Force using away, and that's so fascinating. And then, obviously, to see his journey to become, a very centered and calm Force user, and the way he starts to connect with all his Force connections. And then ultimately, it's almost like for me, the whole series was about how he gets in connection with Qui-Gon. And we get that. And that's like the full circle thing for me. It's like this hopeless, didn't want to touch the Force, to being able to have the power and connection to reconnect with Force Ghost Qui-Gon. That's so great. It's what I expected, but also a little bit more of his character, and I thought it was a really fantastic, well-written Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's my opinion. That's my piece. Din, someone combat me there.
Oh, yeah, you're co-host.
Right. Oh, we're
I fired myself, and you're already taking my job. Okay. You're already taking my guitar job because.
Well. I just want to be you. This is why I'm wearing the hat.
you play my own songs better than I do, which you actually did. And so that was amazing at the IHOP party. Okay, so I've told this a million times, even on this podcast, that, as I was watching The Last Jedi premiere night in Toronto and Laser IMAX 3D, and I get halfway through the movie and Luke makes these awful, terrible mistakes. I'm like, I looked at my brother and I'm like, I think Star Wars is going to a place I can't go for the first time in my life. And by the end of the movie, I loved it. Because I realized, wait a second, if any of us middle-aged people, and in my case, I will say middle-aged white male, if we're being honest with ourselves, we made some mistakes along the way, especially if we were like, I was an idealist when I was just like Luke when I was young, and I thought I would grow up, to be like tackling the world with pure idealism and be this, grow up to be this Jedi who would help people and not make mistakes and all that. And really, I really mean that. That's really what I thought. I thought I would be like Luke, or what I thought Luke was like. And you get there, and then you realize you made mistakes, and you may not love yourself anymore. It's to talk about The Last Jedi and to talk about the show, that's the only really real thing I can talk about. One of the few real things, and which is that now I'm getting myths on screen which speak to where I think we're at culturally too, like the older generation and how we've screwed up for the younger generations. So The Last Jedi and now this touched me in a way which I could see myself in those characters, and that gives me, like Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung said, was the point of myth, was to inspire people on their hero's journey to meet those challenges. And Joseph Campbell does talk about the journey that Carl Jung was on about, which was from, middle-aged life to death. And Campbell was like Freud was on about from, youth to adulthood. So now I'm in that hero's journey, which is the more Jungian one, of middle age to death, and these seeing these characters and myths on screen, like Luke in The Last Jedi, or Obi-Wan in this, really I think is actually like motivating me and helping me on a DNA cellular level to go, okay, so this is the challenge now. Like I have to fix what I can and try to spend the rest of my life, getting back on track, finding hope again, and finding how to be balanced with myself and others, and to help myself and others. And you really can't do that with others unless you can yourself. And that is the big story here with Luke and Obi-Wan. And we'll get to it with Qui-Gon in the end, but that's the journey he goes through, which is self-love again. And that's the only way that he can now then see. I'll just it's very clear. I'm very clear on it. I think the thought process is really simple. He's able to then see Qui-Gon because the Force is everything and in everything, and the only thing that practically binds anything is love. How you show it. A tree is loving the planet and the beings on it by reaching for the sun and then giving out oxygen. The tree, like everything that's happening in our universe, is actually out of love in an interconnected way for each other. So really, the only way that you could really then connect is if you love yourself again, So that's how Obi-Wan's able to see Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon's already there, and he's made that journey. I like what you said, Hannah, about it's just not realistic for him to have lost to the love of his life, his best friend, his brother, his son, Anakin, all his friends on the Jedi Council, the democracy he was defending, everything that was important in Obi-Wan's life. Just gone. He's the most. He experienced the most tragedy out of any Jedi, right? So you're right that he would have to be broke. And I never saw Obi-Wan in my head that way, even after seeing the prequels. But this is how any person would be at that point.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. You've both brought up The Last Jedi, and and the parallels between that movie and this show, especially when you go looking for them, are really striking. And I was watching the finale again yesterday before we recorded this, and the whole showdown between Vader and Obi-Wan on the rocky moon there is so similar in spirit to the showdown between Luke and Kylo on Crate. You know, Kylo says to Luke, you know, have you come all this way to save my soul? And Vader says something, you know, very, very similar to Obi-Wan. I can't remember the exact line.
Have you come here to destroy me?
Yeah, exactly. And both Obi-Wan and Luke, their answer is essentially no. You know, Luke says no to Kylo, and Obi-Wan says, you know, I will do what I must. You know, they both have shown up not thinking they can save who they're fighting. They're both there. They're looking for some other form of answers, of peace, of, you know, they're looking for something else out of that duel. And again, it comes down to a moment where, you know, the master apologizes to the apprentice, to the fallen apprentice, and it struck me so much. And, you know, Din, you made the point, you know, maybe this is, you know, culturally where we're sort of at, that after years and years and years of hope, we're feeling a lot of hopelessness in the world right now. It's very easy to look at everything that is going on and feel like Luke or feel like Obi-Wan. And there are no easy answers. There's no easy fix. You know, that it's not enough to just blow up one Death Star, so to speak. And so now you have to figure out, and this sort of goes back to Rebels, you know, how Jedi choose to fight. Like, how can you best go about fixing the mess that's been made that you may well have played a big part in, and that we all have played a big part in. And I feel like this show and that movie, they mirror each other in such an interesting way, because I think they're speaking to the same idea, that same feeling that the audience has in these tumultuous times that we live in.
Really, I didn't, you know, I love The Last Jedi and I didn't catch that, but that little bit of dialogue by Vader is totally riffing on Kylo.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's,
yeah.
Again, it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Exactly. What I love about those two things being similar is that for me, in those situations of Kylo facing Luke and Vader facing Obi-Wan, yes, there's that top layer of they're a Sith user, they're a Jedi, like they're gonna kill them. Like there's that top layer. But what I feel to be more present is that it's somehow really deep down begrudgingly. I feel in that scene deep down, the small part of Anakin, excuse me, that's left doesn't want to destroy Obi-Wan. And deep down, Kylo doesn't want to destroy Luke. And it's just this top layer of the futile hatred, which is in their heads, which is from Snoke, which is from, you know, Palpatine, that's kind of going, yeah, I'm gonna kill you. But there's something behind it that's like, do you really believe that you want to, though? Like, that's what I feel with both of those situations, where it's like, there's a piece deep down. That's not there.
Yeah, this is making me, what you just said, and this whole show in general is making me think of things I've never thought of before about this, which is, I think that this show left me realizing that it's not a little bit of Anakin in there. It's all Anakin. I actually have chills saying that. It's all Anakin. Vader is just this psychological shell for him to grab onto a different ideology, a way of thinking, which is the Sith, to make him feel better about the bad choices he made through his lack of emotional control. It's just this big Band-Aid to cover up all of Anakin that's broken everywhere. It's like there's actually no Vader there, in my opinion, because he gives Obi-Wan, when the blue light's on his face, he gives Obi-Wan pure, selfless, giving love. It is all Anakin. That Anakin that we knew, that was the most loving person you ever met, is crying, and he absolves Obi-Wan of his guilt and says, "You didn't kill Anakin, I did." There's no Vader there at all in that moment. It's just Anakin saying, "I love you, man, and you go on living your life without this guilt. I did this." It's like the most love. Pure love is defined by selflessness. He's not asking Obi-Wan for anything there. He's just giving to Obi-Wan. And then ideology kicks in, I'm going to kill you. And then that's just the mask of Vader and him doing what the Emperor wants. And
ironically, it's him being selfless by admitting to his selfishness. He's admitting to what he did in that moment.
But there's no selfishness in his spirit there.
No,
it's all just there's a part of me. I'm Anakin, and I'm letting you have to go through the rest of your life without this skill.
Yeah, and to again draw the parallel between this show and The Last Jedi. That movie opens up. Kylo's got his mask on, and Snoke says to him, "You're not a new Vader." He's trying to get Kylo to not be what Vader was, but to be the idea of Vader. You're just a child in a mask. And then Kylo goes through the rest of the movie trying to be the idea of Vader without the imagery of Vader, without, he's trying to truly give in to all of that stuff. And in doing so, by opening himself up in that way, he opens himself up to what will eventually save him, which is Rey. And I think it's very telling that after, and I hate to do this, Din, but I'm going to praise The Rise of Skywalker, that perhaps accidentally, they put him back in the mask. He's back in the mask after he's opened himself up to Rey. And now he's back in the mask because he realizes he can't be Vader. So he has to pretend to be Vader. He can't truly become Kylo Ren. He has to pretend to be Kylo Ren. He is, at the end of the day, just a child in a mask.
That's great. I mean, I haven't thought of it that way, but I like that. I just, they could have just did a cooler thing with the mask. but that's a great read. There's some stuff about Rise of Skywalker that I love, and then there's a lot that I hate. That's why it's really painful to watch, because you're like, oh, that's really awesome. Oh, that's really, really bad. There's back to Kenobi.
I've got another detail of this situation that only 2 weeks after of this show, and sitting and thinking about it, have I realized is, and we just talked about it then, and a lot of people are talking about, this incredible moment where Darth Vader, Anakin, is releasing Obi-Wan of this guilt, and it's this beautiful moment of Anakin giving the last bit of his love to Obi-Wan, and it's this beautiful moment. If we rewind 15 seconds, the reason that is open, and the reason that Darth Vader, the most menacingly violent person in the galaxy, just snapping people's necks left, right, and center, the reason that he went to this very selfless place is because, for me at least, it was the first time that Obi-Wan showed real, true vulnerability to Anakin and Anakin's plight when he said, I'm sorry, Anakin. And he's tearing up. Because if we think about all the times that in prequels and Clone Wars, Anakin goes through many different situations and emotions, and Obi-Wan is kind of hesitant. He's trying to be I'm for you, but still very dogmatic, still quite
he's still got the cloth of dogma on him a little all the time.
Oh, cloth of dogma. Oh my gosh.
He takes it off more than anyone, but just a step too short. And that step is the Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon was in it fully. Yeah. And now he's at the Qui-Gon point where he stepped. Right? You're right. I've never thought of that, Hannah. That's great.
It's because Obi-Wan open that vulnerability. And Anakin, like what was that, like his issues was his inability to control his emotions. And like the first moment, Obi-Wan's like, hey, I'm gonna be vulnerable with you, and he's, you can see it, you can feel it in the moment, like he's vulnerable, saying I'm sorry, like he knew he stuffed up, where previously, not that it was a bad thing, but Obi-Wan like blamed Palpatine and blamed the Order or whoever for what other situation. But it was the first time he kind of just was vulnerable and saw the mistakes. And Anakin, I felt like that
And
was the moment that really connected
too.
with Anakin. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to think of that. It's like, yes, Anakin gave him this selfless thing of releasing his guilt, but he felt safe to do so because Obi-Wan showed him the vulnerability, which I think, in turn is like a lesson for everyone, for humanity.
I just got to say something before I forget it, Dom. I'm sorry, because I'm going to forget it. He says sorry. He's basically, when he says I'm sorry for everything, he's saying I'm sorry I didn't open up like this the whole time.
Because that's what Anakin needed. That's what Anakin needed. He needed someone who he could actually talk to. And Obi-Wan.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry, I think. Because the best acted and written scene in all of Star Wars. But only because it builds on everything else.
Yeah. It's what Anakin needed from the beginning. Anakin was sort of taken from his mother, not as a child, but not as a baby, but as a 10-year-old. So he had a whole life that he remembered. And he has this deep connection to his mother that is, more than just an idea or a fleeting memory. And so he needs someone to open up to. And Qui-Gon could have been that person, we think. But Obi-Wan wasn't ready. He may have been ready to train a student, but I don't think he was ready to train this student. He wasn't ready for this unique set of challenges that would come with Anakin. And even though Obi-Wan probably could have opened up to him, he could have told him about Satine and could have told him about all this whole life that he had beforehand and all these struggles that he'd been through. He never really did. He tried to just get Anakin to fit inside the box of what it means to be a Jedi. Again, the cape of dogma, or whatever you guys just called it a second ago.
Cloth of dogma.
The cloth of dogma. He wanted to put that on Anakin when that's not what Anakin needed, and there was nobody else around who even tried to relate to Anakin on the level that he needed to. And so in Attack of the Clones and in Revenge of the Sith, when he's really struggling, the only person he feels he can turn to, the only person who's reached out to him in that way is Palpatine. And Palpatine wasn't doing it out of any sort of selfless feeling of, I can let me help this young man, achieve his potential in life because that's what he should do. Palpatine was doing it for his own means. He wanted to guide Anakin in a specific direction. He wanted Anakin to have specific reactions to these things. He wanted him to behave a certain way and think about the Jedi and think about the galaxy in a certain way, so that when the time comes when Anakin has to choose between the cloth of dogma, as represented by Mace Windu, and this person who has been there for him and helped him through everything that he has to be through, he's had to go through, he doesn't think about it as, am I condemning the galaxy to the rule of the Sith, or am I going to follow the Jedi and try and make things right? He's thinking about it as, this guy has helped me my whole life, this guy has been a jerk to me my whole life. I'm going to go with the guy who's helped me. That's who I want. That's who I want to save. That's who I trust in this moment. And he knows right away it was the wrong choice. But by that moment, he also feels that there's nothing, it's not something he can ever come back from. And if Obi-Wan or
he
Qui-Gon,
really wants the secret. Like, it's also just desperation of the secret to saving life. I think he's really just like, I gotta save Padme's life. Everything. He loses every other thought for that one.
Mm-hmm. And if someone could have helped him. If Obi-Wan and him had a different relationship then, if Obi-Wan had been vulnerable with him previously, then that moment where he's on Mustafar and you have the single tear roll down his face, if Obi-Wan shows up then and says, Anakin, let me help you, maybe we have a different outcome. Maybe it's a different story. Maybe the story ends in part 3, or part 4 is very different. But it doesn't go that way because Obi-Wan wasn't ready. Yoda was right that Obi-Wan wasn't ready for this challenge. But Obi-Wan, felt but then, maybe Anakin wouldn't have been trained if Obi-Wan hadn't taken on that challenge.
But it's like Dave Filoni said in his big speech about the Duel of the Fates.
Yeah.
When he did the Disney Plus thing, is that I actually think the Force plan to balance out what Sidious and Plagueis were doing with creating life was the Force creating Anakin. And I think the plan was that by Revenge of the Sith, it would be balanced. So it's like an adjusted plan after that with the twins. And I think the Duel of the Fates really is, if Qui-Gon survived, much more of a chance that things would have gone right in Revenge of the Sith.
Certainly. This show, man.
Times.
This show.
Wild times.
This is what I've said this before, and I'll say it many more times. The best Star Wars makes you think about other Star Wars differently, and that's why I genuinely think this show is the best, certainly the best live action show. And I don't mean that as a dig at anything else, but just every scene in it, like you said, Din, doesn't just make you feel something, but it builds on everything else, and it makes you look at everything else differently, and it's just fantastic. It's just so good.
It's been so funny listening to your shows about this because you always have like some, no matter how good something is, you have criticisms. You're like, you love Last Jedi now, and you didn't at first, and it's really weird. It's really weird to hear you just like gush and say the word perfect. It's just
this show like that.
I've never seen it in the whole time I've been listening to your show.
Yeah, I have one nitpick about this show, and I could care less about it. I couldn't care less about it. I don't think I don't think the visual effects are very good. That's it. I don't think the ships look fake. I don't like the way the ships look. They move.
Sometimes they did look CG, and
they move wrong. They move wrong.
Particularly in the finale when Obi-Wan was escaping in that one ship. Why did that look weird? That looked so strange.
It's moving wrong. I can't put into words exactly right, but it's too fast. It's too fast in the wrong way. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know.
That's the one thing. But but like I so don't care about that. It's like everything else about that. The show is perfect. So whatever. That's my. I'm gonna hand wave away that and just say I don't care.
It's kind of interesting to Star Wars never had perfect special effects. It was always
exactly. There's blatantly some matte paintings in A New Hope. I've never cared about that. I've never cared about it. So why do?
Yeah.
Even in the special
editions.
It's
a charm. It's like I like seeing in the days in today's day and age where everything is so perfect. It was really kind of refreshing. Like Ewan McGregor is an executive producer, and like I've just been saying ever since this project was announced, and every time there was we're delaying for a script rewrite, and Ewan would just drop a little line like, "Oh yeah, we're going to do a little rework to make sure we get it right." It's that's pretty much him saying, I'm executive producer and I'm making sure that this thing is going to be a character piece. Like this is the greatest Star Wars character piece that has ever been made. Yeah. And that is the greatest acted scene and written scene in all of Star Wars, but only because it builds, like it's riffing on the end of Jedi with Luke and Vader, the unmasking. It's riffing on the end of Revenge of the Sith and the interactions they had there. So it's taking like I think the two defining best endings in all of fantasy storytelling in movies, which is, and I don't include Lord of the Rings because it is, but it was written as a book, and that's the ending we get in the movie. But they did it in the movie. But Star Wars, the endings of Return of the Jedi and the end of Revenge of the Sith, they're flip sides of each other, and they're the two best endings of any fantasy ever in cinema history. Fantasy cinema history. And it's a character piece that's riffing on those. I don't know. I don't even know what we're talking about. Sorry.
But actually, it's going back like 2 minutes to something Dom said about what we're talking about, like the show and what the show does. That this is one thing I think since this show I've realized about the Star Wars TV series coming out is that it is actually difficult to compare, and we can't really compare the shows in terms of what they do for Star Wars, because for me The Mandalorian is a really cool and badass chapter book, and it's like every chapter is like just a cool story, and you've got your main characters and you love to see what they do, and that's really, and if you think about it like that, like, you enjoy it. Book of Boba Fett is sitting in the sand pit with your Boba Fett action figure and your Rancor action figure and just smashing it together and having a good time. Think about it like that, like you're just playing with the action figures. It's a good show. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi
with one great poetic piece of thing with the Tusken Raider episode.
Yeah, actually,
that wasn't really playing. That was just beautiful poetry. But yeah, sorry, go on.
But and then Obi-Wan being a character piece and kind of this poetic symphony of a journey of this character. And I think, and I've seen it a little bit around the internet of people getting really bogged down to, rate the shows against each other. And I like Obi-Wan because it's better than Book of Boba Fett, which is just like, okay, you can have favorites, but I'm finding it difficult to actually compare them. Because it's just
they're all different.
It's like comparing Beatles with Beethoven. It's like, well, you can't really say Beethoven's really bad because it's not like the Beatles, because it's a totally different genre and purpose. Like, what?
I agree.
Yeah, so that's my take on the.
I completely agree. What I was saying was, now I just realized where I was going before I trailed off. It's just middle age, so that's the other thing. You just start to forget things. So I'd like to see more of that in Star Wars. People like Obi-Wan forgetting things.
More people forgetting things?
Yeah. I feel better. Oh, okay. Anyway, okay. So it's almost like, I just feel like Ewan as an executive producer, when he sat down with Deborah Chow, was like, let's do this because you have the most awesome, I don't know where Dom went, mythology that's ever been told on screen. And we have the best groundwork laid through 40 years of storytelling to then analyze those moments and riff on them as a character piece with the best written story and dialogue and acting that we can deliver to build on everything that was there in the past. Yeah, so I kind of feel like there was probably, and this is me just hypothesizing, that Ewan and Deborah would have sat Hayden down and said, "Oh yeah, don't worry, we know that people have given you a hard time for 20 years, but that's not going to happen because this is going to be made in a way you're going to really be able to dig your teeth into as an actor." And
absolutely. Excuse me.
Jeez, like, I do feel like Ewan and Hayden's acting in that scene is the best acting and the most powerful moment we've ever seen in Star Wars. It's not just, the way you described Ewan breaking down and really finally opening himself up to Anakin fully, completely emotionally naked without the cloth of dogma. And the acting that we get in Hayden's face behind that mask through those, I guess it's like 5 minutes, just the subtleties of his emotional depth from moment to moment and the emotional range that he's taking Anakin and Vader through in that moment. It's almost, I feel almost like Ewan and Deborah would have sat down and said, we have the script with you, and when we get to that moment, we're going to make sure we write you and direct you and give you the freedom to do best acting you've ever done on screen for those few minutes, because that's what we got. And when Dom and I'm so thankful for this experience, Dom. Thank you so much for when we saw that premiere, and we hadn't seen it earlier in the day on Disney, and we know Hayden's like in the next room, because they're there for the day, Hayden and Deborah Chow. Apparently, he came in during that scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a guy who's avoided. Think about this. I'm getting chills again. Think about this, everyone, all our listeners. This man, from the time that he was a young man, even boy, because he was like a teen, 19 when he started this Star Wars thing, has then hid from fandom for about 20 years because of how much he was attacked. Like, that has got to hurt deeply.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts so much that someone like George sells the company. That he only recently, Hayden started coming back to Star Wars because the prequels fans are older now and showing them all. But this guy hid away for 20 years. Like, worse than Harrison Ford in terms of not wanting to be involved with everything. And for him to come into the theater and feel safe enough that he's about to watch on screen something that he knows, because he mentioned after that he saw it the night before for the first time, that confidence and that he's like, this is good and I want to be there with people when they see it. Like, that is amazing that we were actually there for that. Like, I wish someone nudged and I could just watch him, but I wouldn't have been able to, because I was like, I remember now, I was like praying. It was like church, I was like, oh my God, I'm seeing the redemption of humanity. Like, Jesus died and he's risen from the grave right in front of me in this screen. Because
look, can I ask how the mood was? The mood of that moment.
I don't know. There was a lot of there was I don't know. Like, it was a hard room to read because there was a lot of like booing and there was a lot of idiots. Crying? There were a lot of idiots in that room. Yeah, like there was one moment where Beru, and they were talking and making the dumbest jokes, the whole thing, and Matt kept telling them to shut up. It was hilarious watching.
I love Matt. Of course he did. Of course he did.
It was great. And I did once too. I finally lost it because it was like, this is the last episode. You guys got to really just shut up now. And anyway, so when Beru gives Owen the gun, there was some guy behind me, like, I'm pretty sure they flew in from Texas, like, honest to God, to go see this premiere, because there wasn't the premieres there. He was like, oh, what? She's a badass now too? And I was like, what? Like, another guy saying, women can't be badasses, like right behind me during the freaking finale. And it was really pissing me off. I'm sorry. And but so half the room was like that, and half the room was like us, like realizing this was some kind of sacred moment. But anyway, for Hayden to feel safe enough to be in there with us, like, that's how good that scene is. So that's good.
Yeah. All through the episode, Din kept saying what sounded to me like, "Oh my gourd, oh my gourd, oh my gourd, oh my gourd."
I love it.
That's what it sounded. I don't know.
Oh no, I was saying, oh my Gideon.
I kept hearing, oh my gourd.
Do you remember in Battlestar Galactica when Baltar, when whatever number she is shows up to him, but he's like seeing her again, like an apparition that no one's in. He's like, oh my Gideon. I just always thought that was really funny.
Okay.
Oh my Gideon. Yeah,
my Gord.
That's what I was thinking.
I wish it was Gord.
But that would be very Canadian, because Gord Downey and Gordon Lightfoot and the Bare Naked Ladies album named Gordon. I don't know if people who aren't Canadian know this, but Gord is like the most Canadian name. So we just really should be saying, oh my Gord.
Oh my Gord.
I'm gonna start working that into daily life.
I mean, Gord from Doug. I don't know what you're talking about.
I love it when you tail off. It was something good when you tail off. It was something good.
It's the concussion.
Oh my gourd.
Oh my Gideon.
Oh my gourd. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh my gourd.
It was It was so good. I had no idea I knew we were gonna get something good. I had no idea it was gonna be that good.
Yeah, and you know that yeah, like you said, that room was annoying throughout the day at points. The way people were sort of not engaging in appropriate cinema
that really
behavior.
shocks me.
Yeah. I which is something I've been noticing more and more, but that's a topic for another day. But the so throughout the day that had been going on, and I didn't catch the guy making the comment during the Beru moment, although I certainly believe it based on everything else. But it felt to me that there were at least a couple of moments in that finale where it did command everyone's attention, even the people that had seen it before. That, you know, whether it was Obi-Wan, you know, lifting the rocks all up around him, or you know, those moments talking to Vader. And yeah, I saw Hayden sneaking out of the theater after the episode ended so that he could then make a proper entrance for the Q&A afterwards. So he was there. He came in to see that final moment.
That would have been funny if he just stayed in there with us, like, lights come on. That was awesome.
That would have been so good. Just did a lap, high-fived everyone.
Wasn't I great? Finally.
I feel like that video of when Mark Hamill rode Star Tours one time, and like the ride ends, he sort of stands up and turns around to everybody and starts doing like comedy for everybody in the room. He's like, "That was the most violent ride at Disneyland." I was like, "All right, Mark, settle down." Anyways, I mean, I could almost want to stay in this moment, but I don't know what more there is to say about you know, that final moment, other than, again, just to reiterate how perfect it felt to see Obi-Wan and Anakin come face to face again. Like, that was always something about this show that I was a little weary of. The idea that Anakin and Obi-Wan had met in between episodes 3 and 4. And but it was executed in such a way that it felt earned, it felt right, it felt like it enhances the overall story. And it goes back to what we were talking about with Obi-Wan at the beginning of the story. You know, if he is not in a place where Anakin's memory is haunting him and dominating his every thought, the way he is at the beginning of this story, and you know, he's just nothing but regret over his choices. And disappointment and sadness over what happened to Anakin. If he's not in that place, if he is the sort of happy-go-lucky Obi-Wan that he becomes again at the end of the series, I don't think that moment works. I don't think that moment pays off. And this again, it goes back to why I think this series is just about perfect. Like they took the story, every beat in the story meant something. Every beat in the story, you know, brought us through to this moment, and it made the whole journey worthwhile to get to that moment. And it made the series, it made the series feel like it was what they promised it would be, an essential chapter in the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. It's just brilliant. It's just fantastic.
I when you talk about that, I was thinking, you mentioned like how it makes you see other things differently. One of them is the word Darth. It's not just, to me, it's not just that it's setting up the sort of canonicity of, oh, that's why Obi-Wan calls him Darth, you know, because maybe when they were George was writing A New Hope, there was only one Darth Vader, and it wasn't like an actual Sith title. And
yeah.
So they need some way to explain why Obi-Wan only said the word Darth, you know? And so now I think it does way more than just help canon. And that's not even important. What they did with it is genius. It actually, to me, it's when he calls him Darth, he's saying Anakin. Because Darth, he's not talking to Darth Vader. He's talking to Anakin, going, "Okay, Darth, He's like being like a big brother would, or a friend would just be like honest and chide and rib a friend. He's just ribbing him. He's like, okay, Anakin, Darth, whatever, you're Darth, but I just saw that you were Anakin.
Yeah, yeah. He's calling him Darth to say to him, "This isn't who you really are."
Yeah,
I know who you are, and it's not Darth.
I think that's how I read it. I think people probably read it as him going, he now definitely feels like there's no Anakin left, and he's just Darth Vader, and that's why he tells Luke. He doesn't ever tell Luke, by the way, to go kill Darth Vader. Luke says,
I can't kill my
I
father.
kill my own father. And he's doing that, I think, doing a certain point of view thing where he's like, the Emperor has already won, but he's leaving Luke with the choice. He can't make the choice that he came to.
Yeah.
To find Anakin. He can't tell Luke, you got to find the Anakin. He needs to let that happen naturally so that there's the real breaking down, just like he broke down with Anakin. He knows that the only way Luke is going to be the one to finally get through, what like Ahsoka did a little and Obi-Wan even more, which is that Luke has to make that choice by free. It has to be real for Luke to break down and for Vader to break down with each other and meet in their brokenness and who they really are. So he has to say, he says, you must face Darth Vader again. He doesn't say you have to kill him.
Yeah.
And face is the operative word.
Yeah.
To get through to the
face. Face Darth Vader again. Yeah. And he
obviously not intended, but pun not intended.
But and he says, when Luke says I can't kill my own father, Obi-Wan says then the Emperor has already won. And I think part of that is also he needs Luke to make that choice on his own. He needs Luke to go to not run away in that moment. He needs Luke to go to Vader. And he needs Luke to, emotionally be ready, be in a place where he thinks he could do it so that he can choose not to. He has to get to the edge so that he can step away from it, so that he can really understand what Anakin has been through and then can appeal to Anakin's humanity, what's left of it. So
it's also working on a mythological level, like the whole kill your father, Oedipus stuff, which but the whole it's metaphorically you've got to kill this idea of your father. Like in mythology, the kill the father thing isn't literal. It's like you've got to kill an idea of the father, a bad one or an old one to get to atonement, which is at one-ment. So you have to get to that oneness through killing an aspect of what that father represents, even in yourself. So that's how I read. There's nothing really literal that's going on with Obi-Wan there at all.
There's nothing really literal ever going on with what Obi-Wan says. It's always from a certain point of view.
Yeah, because even people, you can argue and say, well, but no, you're just explaining away something that doesn't make sense. He wants Luke to go kill the Emperor, Vader. But no, because why would he say the Emperor has already won? He would actually just be like you kill Vader, the Empire is still there. The Emperor is still there. It's not actually going to do anything if you kill Vader.
Yeah. It's and even if it is just explaining away something that doesn't make sense, who cares? Who cares? It's more fun. It's more fun to find an explanation for it. You can acknowledge that it doesn't make sense, but also just go, it's more fun to find an explanation.
That's why he says it. Yeah. I totally agree.
It's always made that's why that ending has always been great to me, because even before there were prequels, even before anything, it still kind of never made sense to me. I'm like, well, the Empire is still going to be there. The Emperor is still going to be there if he kills Vader. So what's Obi-Wan really getting at? He's got to be up to something, and I'm not sure what it is. But now this show helps me feel like I know what he's up to. He's just letting Luke come to that conclusion that he came to himself.
He's trying to guide Luke to a certain or to a certain point, but he needs Luke to make those decisions for himself. He's going to give him he's going to put him in a position to succeed, but then ultimately it's up to Luke. Ultimately, Luke has to make those choices. He can't make those choices for him, which is essentially what he says to Luke in Empire Strikes Back when Luke goes to confront Vader. Then he says, I cannot intervene. And that's basically all he can do is he can guide Luke. He can train Luke. He can point Luke in the right direction, give him all the tools he needs. But when the time comes, he can't pop in as a Force ghost and go boo, and startle Vader into, turning on the Emperor. That can't happen. Only Luke in that moment could make it happen, or theoretically Leia if things went in a different direction, especially the way things are on this show. But yeah, this is. Yeah, it's funny. We started this by talking a little bit about Obi-Wan at the beginning of the show. And we very quickly wound up with Obi-Wan at the end of the show, because that's the journey. That's where he is. And I don't think we'd be talking about Obi-Wan at the end of the show so much if it didn't feel so right from where he started from, which is the point I was making several minutes ago.
That's a testament to this being good fantasy and storytelling in general, because I think every story it's really just the only thing that makes it worth it really is where does it take you? Mm-hmm. So every story, no matter how great it is, it lives or dies by its ending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We've talked a little bit about Qui-Gon already, but just in terms of, where do Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon go from here? Right? Because Qui-Gon says to him, there's much to do. Come on, follow me, buddy. Where do we go from here with those two? Okay, and I don't mean season 2. I mean, like, what's next on their journey?
This really goes to the core of what all Star Wars is, because really, when you talk about Rebels saying and Kanan always saying it's how we choose to fight, or Yoda saying how we choose to fight. Mm-hmm. That is just a riff on the end of Return of the Jedi, which is the choice that we're talking about, which Luke comes to a new choice, which is there's a different way to choose to fight. And you can go about it in a soulful way, in a non-violent way. And everything in Star Wars is a riff on that. Even the ending of Last Jedi and how Luke chooses to fight Kylo. So it's even the end of the Clone Wars. Yoda's the first end of the Clone Wars when Yoda goes through his whole arc, and then he finds out that he's got this new mission there's a new fight for him, which is to learn how to be a Force ghost. And then he says to Anakin, not victory in the Clone Wars, but victory for all time. Yeah. So what's happening is, and George spelled it out there, is that the Jedi will ultimately choose to fight in a different way in the future. And one of those battlefronts is going to be as Force ghosts to help others from beyond become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. And so that's where they're going. And
yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So where do they go from here in terms of train? I think the important thing is that isn't even where they go from here. It's what we take out of that ending, and what we take out of that ending, it's what we put into it actually, and what's inferred. And I really think it's that to be a balanced person, to connect with everything in the Force, whether it's Anakin or the Rocks or Qui-Gon, you have to choose. You have to choose love. You have to choose love. And not fear.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
It's kind of that clear. It's like Obi-Wan's now chosen to love himself, and he can now feel Qui-Gon's love through the manifesting from the cosmic force, and that's where the Jedi need to go in the future, which is just love. No dogma, maybe even.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that's my take. I think,
yeah.
So now
I think it's
really
pretty
want to hear
accurate, though.
what
I feel like you're pretty spot on, because Qui-Gon is one of my most favorite Jedi after Plo Koon, and I think both have almost similarities of need that the realization of love and compassion and empathy is a really key thing to bringing goodness or light into the galaxy or the world. And I think where Obi-Wan will go with Qui-Gon emotionally is they will, I don't know how, like literally in a story way, but I think the goal would be to teach Obi-Wan letting go and teaching him the fluid way the Force works within us all. Excuse me. Because if we think of where Ben Kenobi is in A New Hope, he's very he lets things happen as they are, and he doesn't worry about the future, and he doesn't think about the past, and he's very in the moment for me. So I think Qui-Gon has to be a very big instigator of that feeling and conversation and ability of letting go and being fluid of what has happened and what will come. Ultimately makes Obi-Wan a good teacher for Luke in the future.
Yeah. I mean, Qui-Gon's best piece of advice, or one of his perhaps his most famous piece of advice, is your focus determines your reality. And I think that's a journey that's part of the journey that Obi-Wan goes on through this show, because in the first half, throughout the first 5 episodes, at the very least, he's focused on his failures. He's focused on all the things that have gone wrong in his life, all the things that he wishes were different. And as a result, he's living a very sort of lonely, sad, depressed existence. He's spends his days cutting meat for somebody who doesn't pay properly. He goes back to his sad little cave where the Jawas rip him off every day. He tries to do nice things for Luke, and Uncle Owen won't let him. And he's living this sort of horrible, sad existence. And because all he can think about is the things he wishes he'd done differently. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, but the whole show comes down to Obi-Wan in the pit when Vader is dropping all those rocks on him. And he's down there, he's being crushed literally by Vader, but also sort of emotionally by the memory of Anakin, because you can hear the audio flashbacks of moments where Anakin, moments of regret that he has with Anakin. And then all of a sudden, he starts thinking about Luke, and he starts thinking about Leia, and he starts thinking about the future, and he starts thinking about these children who represent, as he later tells Leia, the best in Anakin and Padme, his two sort of best friends through his adult life, and these two friends that he misses, but he realizes their best qualities live on in their children. And as soon as he realizes that, that's when he's able to turn the tables on Vader. That's when he's able to literally climb out of the pit, climb out of the cave. And when that happens, his focus is no longer on fixing the mistakes of his past. It's now about setting the future up for success. And once he does that, then we start to see those bits of the old Obi-Wan come through, that hopeful Obi-Wan, that sort of happy Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan, he actually laughs when he reunites with Leia, which is something I don't think he does at any... Yeah, I don't think he laughs at any other point in the series. And once he's done that...
That was totally a Ewan laugh, too, not even an Obi-Wan laugh.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
It's Ewan in an interview laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if there's one moment in Ewan's performance that I don't love, it's that. That's a little too fake a laugh.
Right?
But
I kind of loved it for its just That's Ewan.
Weird,
that's not even
weird
Obi-Wan's
moment. Yeah.
Yeah. But Obi-Wan, I've always found that Obi-Wan has a weird laugh. Even on Clone Wars when he laughs, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
James, what are you doing? But as soon as he stops focusing on his failures with Anakin and starts focusing on the hope that exists in Luke and Leia, all of a sudden he's ready for whatever comes next, which is what both of you have been talking about. And that's when and why he can see Qui-Gon. It's brilliant. This show is so good.
I don't know how it's like, are the writers geniuses? I think it must be sort of like a kind of a collective genius that happens with Star Wars and like all the information that you get from studying Campbell and that Lucas imparted to them, because I just realized something. Remember when we were sitting there during the credits and I was sitting beside, Matt, who's a church going lad, and I just blurted out, I was like, that was like effing communion, but like I actually said the F word. Yeah. And I wasn't trying to be inflammatory. I was just like blown away. But that's how I actually felt, again, like in that archetypal DNA. And I just realized when I said earlier that I felt like it was like a resurrection, that's actually what was depicted on screen. Jesus dies and goes into the underground cave and lifts the soul. That's the myth that's happening over Easter weekend, and then lifts up the souls that have gone to hell with him from the cave, from death. So actually, that was actually a rip on that with Obi-Wan in the cave. That was actually, I'm pretty sure that must have consciously been chosen to do that he had like a death and resurrection in that episode.
Effing communion. I love it.
Communion. And thank you, Matt, because thank you for laughing and not excommunicating me or something. No, like he had a good sense of humor about it, because I guess he knows in spirit I didn't mean it inflammatory. It was like really earnestly, like that was like effing communion.
I love that.
It's appropriate. It just becomes more and more appropriate when all of those confused Southern moms and aunts put up pictures of Obi-Wan Kenobi next to their crucifixes instead of Jesus. It all makes more sense. We've talked a lot about Anakin and Obi-Wan. I want to touch on some of the other characters as well in the show, because there's some other terrific arcs, and I feel like we can't go much further without talking about Princess Leia and her role in this series. And this is another one where, for me, I feel like this is what made this show work, was that they found a way to incorporate Leia into it, because it gave it a necessary urgency and scope that you couldn't do with Luke. You couldn't do with Luke. Luke, for his story in A New Hope, has to be the kid that has never left home, has barely left his hometown. He can't have gone on some long adventure. I say can't. I'm sure 10 years from now there'll be a story where he does. But that's who Luke is. He's that guy who's never been anywhere and is yearning to get out there. Leia, when we meet her, is so much more, well traveled. She's a representative in the Imperial Senate. All of these things, and so you're able to bring in the next generation and have them play an important role in the story, while also making it feel like important enough for Obi-Wan to leave Tatooine and get out there and be a part, go on this adventure and give up on this sort of so-called sacred mission that he's taken on to watch over and protect Luke. And, that moment, I think it's in episode 5, or it might be in the finale, I can't remember, where he says to Leia, he says to everybody on the ship, "You are the future," and he points directly to Leia, says, "You are the future." That it gives everything that happens in Obi-Wan's journey just sort of an extra layer of meaning, an extra sort of kick to push him to where he needs to be at the end of the series. But I'll throw it out to both of you. What did you think of the way Leia was incorporated into this story?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with everything you've said there. It added the urgency. I like when you said that, because that's true. And I did wonder about that, of, what would make Obi-Wan leave the planet? What would make him, on the have Inquisitors on his tail? And it kind of makes sense this whole way, and it's really well written, her character. It doesn't just feel like they went, Princess Leia's around, let's just show a cute little girl as Princess Leia. Like, it didn't feel tokenistic at all. It felt so meaningful, and their relationship was so beautifully done. And the portrayal by Vivian Leia Blair is fantastic. I can't praise her performance enough for a child actor. I found her so believable and so engaging, and I really didn't find her to break character at all. And but the character of Leia is something, I don't know about you guys, but I had no idea. I hadn't heard like a single rumor that she was going to be in the show. I feel like, Dom, you might have heard, or definitely heard the
I'd heard
it.
I'd heard she was in it, and I'd heard that Vivian Lyra Blair was playing. Like I'd heard.
You heard a lot about it.
Yeah,
I'm glad you never mentioned it. Whenever we cross paths, because that was completely like, everyone was like just throwing out names, and I'm sure I've heard, Leia should be in it, blah blah blah. But she was just one of the other 20 names that should be in the show.
Yeah, right.
And so for me, watching that, because personally I relate to Princess Leia and connect with Princess Leia quite deeply. We all have characters we particularly relate to in Star Wars, and I feel like that's me and Princess Leia. And the experience of seeing that moment, and it was at the Kenobi premiere, which I'm sorry to mention because I
still
the start of IHOP.
Still a sore spot for
I know. I'm tense to bring it up. But to have that moment in a room full of 10,000 people, the second Alderaan came on screen, it's funny. It's a pretty kind of standard looking planet, but it's Alderaan. And just that split second, and I've never felt that kind of emotion before. I was completely overwhelmed, and knowing that we're about to see young Princess Leia was such an electric experience for me. And like I said, I think the writing of her character was so purposeful. It wasn't a tokenistic throw in that she was there. It was meaningful. She's sassy. She's smart. She's for the next 60 years of her life, she changes the rebellion and the galaxy, and it's very interesting and very cool to see where she came from. So I loved it. I can't say anything negative about her. That's where I'm at with that.
No, and I wouldn't expect anybody to. I know some people have, but those people are wrong.
Yeah, they're wrong. Just blatantly
wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. Objectively. I don't believe in anything being objective, but those people are objectively wrong. Dan, what about you? How did you feel about the way the series handled Leia?
I'm really kind of surprised that I felt like she had that sort of freshness and modern relevance and kind of magic character that you just automatically fall in love with. Like, that kind of magic that like a show like Stranger Things has, or like Goonies with the young kids, or a young kid. Like, she had that, and I was completely like not trying to have that, but actually had that kind of magic. And I can't say enough about the way she's written into the story, and for the way she was acted. I mean, I kind of like, I've been telling people like my mom or my neighbors upstairs who are also their female partners. Like I'm like, you just trust me, you just have to watch this show, because you will fall in love with. My first thought was, you will fall in love with Leia. Like, that will be the first thing that they like about the show.
it's interesting. Like the you know, I sort of feel the same way I do about Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian. That this, for as much as the show is a Star Wars show and there's all the Star Wars around it, at the end of the day, what draws people to the show is Baby Yoda and The Mandalorian. And I kind of feel the same way about, I think Obi-Wan Kenobi has a bit of that going on as well, where there's Inquisitors and the Empire, and they go to the place from Jedi Fallen Order, and it's Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and all these things that appeal to Star Wars fans. But really, the thing that I think would make this show appealing to kids, to people who are just sort of casual fans, or people who are non-fans who are just sort of checking it out for the first time, is I think Princess Leia is what's going to draw people in, because Obi-Wan is, and we've talked about why this had to be this way and why it's good that it's this way, but Obi-Wan is very dour at the beginning of the show. And it's not easy to watch a show about somebody who's sad all the time. And Leia comes into the show and just injects some life and injects some hope and injects some humor and some levity, but also a lot of heart. That she brings all of the stuff that people people expect from Obi-Wan but aren't getting it from Obi-Wan at the beginning of the show. She brings all of that in so that the show doesn't feel like just you're just watching Obi-Wan just take beating after beating. Instead, it feels like there is, like I said, some light and some levity to it. That is an essential ingredient in the Star Wars recipe, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it's so Star Wars. I mean, I think that's the best thing that I can say about what they did is it's not just Disney doing the cute thing. It's actually quintessential Star Wars.
Oh yeah. She's
what Anakin was in The Phantom Menace, the same age.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually very, very prequel in her depiction because she is basically Padme's daughter. She's so much like Padme. And thematically, what they did with her is showing us how someone like Padme becomes a leader at the age of 14.
Yeah.
So we're actually getting like more layers to that world building that the prequels did in the character of Leia, which is great.
Yeah. You bring up two things. You bring up Anakin in Phantom Menace, which I just want to mention how heartbreaking it is every time she says, "Will I ever see you again?" And she repeats his line every time. It's like, just rip my heart out and stomp on it. Why don't you, Star Wars? Yeah, it's so good. And then, but then you mentioned it opened up the show to talk a little bit about Padme, and for her presence to be felt in this show, which was something that, again, it was something I felt would be necessary for this show to succeed, because you were bringing back 2 out of 3 of the leads from the prequel trilogy. It seemed it would feel a little bit odd for the third lead of the prequels to, well, she can't be there, in person because she's dead, not be acknowledged and not have her presence felt. And the moment I think in the third episode when Obi-Wan looks at Leia and says, whenever I look at her, I see her mother, is just like, oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
so good.
And like one of the comments I had to this show is that we didn't get enough flashbacks, which that's purely just because they looked amazing and I would have wanted more anyway. But to me, these comments were almost essentially a flashback for me, or at least a very strong homage to Clone Wars specifically. Because yes, there is the connection in the prequels and Natalie Portman, but in the Clone Wars, that friendship and this kind of trio that kind of forms between Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan is very strong. And so I think, when Obi-Wan said that, I felt that was such a not a fan service, but a very meaningful nod to the Clone Wars side of that relationship. And yeah, I loved all those moments. And one of my most emotional moments was when Obi-Wan knelt down and said, how did he start it? I never told you about your parents, but you are wise. Well, what are the three words? I always forget the three words, but he says about Padme. But it just absolutely shook me.
Wise, discerning, and kind-hearted.
Discerning and kind-hearted, yeah. Just shook me to my core of how, because that's years of that relationship and that connection with her, of going through the Clone Wars together and losing Anakin together.
Yeah.
Like, that's where he's saying that from. And it's like, oh, geez, that's like too much to handle.
Yeah. Yeah. That whole moment at the end, their final meeting, just tremendous.
So incredible. So incredible. And that's what I think I respect about Vivian's performance, is that I really felt like she was well educated on not only of Leia, because I think she did a perfect Leia, but I feel like she was well educated on the meaning of her character, of her parents, and like the meaning of why she was born, but why Luke and Leia are important, not just like her character specifically, but like her parents, and why Padme is significant, why Anakin's significant, and I felt like she was just really well educated in that. So I don't know if that's her own kind of interest and research, or if that was like really well explained and told to her, but I really enjoyed that, and I felt that in her performance.
Yeah. It's something Deborah Chow said at the Q&A that we were at was that, she wasn't looking for somebody to come in and do an impression of Carrie Fisher. She wanted somebody who kind of could embody those qualities already without necessarily thinking about them in the Princess Leia sort of Carrie Fisher way. And I feel like she found that and then some in Vivian Lyra Blair. The fact that she should come in and just nail all the different layers to Princess Leia. It's just phenomenal casting and phenomenal
layers
performance. Layers of Leia. Yeah.
Layer of Leia. Sorry, dad joke. Wow, again.
Yeah.
I'm making dad jokes. Jeez. Oh no.
I also want to talk a little bit about Reva and the Inquisitors because in a way I think you could certainly make the case that Reva is the second main character of this show.
Oh yeah, definitely like a C plot.
Yeah. She's a C plot, but she drives the story like an A plot.
Definitely. Yeah.
Which is it's interesting because this is the character who, really sets all of this into motion. She's the one who's kind of smarter than everybody else, and puts the plan and gets things rolling by having Flea of all people kidnap Princess Leia, which is stunt casting.
Totally forgot that happened until just you mentioned it then. Holy crap, we got Flea in Star Wars.
Yeah. The Red Hot Chili Peppers are coming to Toronto next month, and I have to work the concert. And I'm gonna be like looking at him, going, "You kidnapped Princess Leia! How dare you! Boo! Boo!" And that's when they'll say, "No, don't bother coming back tomorrow. You can leave now."
Red Hot Melu Runs. That's what they should be renamed as.
There we go.
Worked out on that one. Sorry, continue. Yeah.
I don't even know. What I think was sort of fascinating about Reva is that not only does she sort of set the story in motion, the conclusion to her arc mirrors the sort of the ultimate conclusion to Anakin's arc. This is a redemption story for her, and it's it feels appropriate that in a story that is about in a story that is that you know sets Obi-Wan and Luke and Leia off on the path to one day redeem Anakin. It feels appropriate that the other climax to the story is somebody being redeemed. It shows that it's possible, and that you can have a story like this that ends without Anakin being redeemed, despite so much going into the story being about Obi-Wan needing to confront him and wishing things could go back to the way they were. You can end the story without resolving that, because we know it can't be resolved till Return of the Jedi, but still remind everybody that it is possible, that it can be done, that it will be done, because we see it on an admittedly smaller scale with this Inquisitor whose story is not dissimilar to Anakin's, but in the end she makes the right choice, as he eventually will. She just gets there a little bit quicker.
Absolutely. And I think when you said that, it was kind of funny where we had this kind of three-pronged experience of Anakin or Vader, Obi-Wan, and Reva. Also, I always get, is it Reva or Reva? Because I think I automatically want to say Reva.
Reva? It's the new Han or Han.
I thought it was Reva, but I'm not sure. But
Reva,
I'm never
Reva.
confident in the.
Neither am I.
Yeah.
Okay. Reva, or whatever. But in her story, her character arc, I think it was really fantastic, because we haven't gotten something exactly like that before, of her, especially of her experience of a child going through Order 66. The closest we have noted to is Kanan in the start of the Bad Batch, and he's like, it's like happened, and so he's like, oh my god. But for someone to be there when Anakin is transitioning to be Darth Vader and killing, being at the temple, was like such a fascinating experience and a traumatic experience at that. And I think, I loved just how this whole thing went, and it wasn't just, oh, she's just another Inquisitor and like she's just doing Vader's dirty work. It is really nuanced of where she is at and why she is here. I liked the depth of her character and of her story.
Yeah, you bring up Kanan. It's so fascinating to think about the two of them, because here are two people that went through this traumatic experience that is Order 66, and they wound up on very different paths. Yeah. But you see in their stories and in their arcs, they carry that trauma with them, and all of the choices that they make are informed by that. And it's a reminder. It's a play on the idea that everybody experiences these things differently, and just because Kanan went on to become a rebel leader doesn't mean that everybody's going to. But by that same token, just because Reva goes on to be an Inquisitor and gives into the darker instincts that come out of an experience like that, doesn't mean everybody's going to. And in the end, we see that Kanan, especially if you read the New Dawn novel, Kanan does have some of those darker instincts that Reva has, and we see in the end that Reva has some of the compassionate instincts that Kanan has. But they each wound up on very different tracks and took very different paths out of Order 66. Dan, I'll throw it over to you. What did you think of the way the Reva storyline and the way it was portrayed through this series?
I think what I appreciated the most with like most of this stuff in this series is the layers that come from looking at something that we already know and from a different point of view. So literally one of the first things we see is Reva's point of view in these last two episodes of Order 66. Like we literally see her viewpoint of Anakin coming at her. So So it's sort of like I have this. It's weird because I've always said that even though I'm an OT generation person who saw Return of the Jedi in the theater in '83 and cried when Yoda died and Luke and Vader save each other, I have more nostalgia for the prequels because I feel like the prequels just set up the greatest thing about the prequels, other than the fact that I think Revenge of the Sith is the greatest work of art in any field of the last 35 years, is that it suggests so much. Like what those 3 movies do is unbelievable. It's the world building is unparalleled by anything. It just every second of those movies, you're just like, but what does that mean? And what's going on there? And what are the implications of that? And I want to see more of that. And where could that go? And we're just like starting to, I feel like, even though the Clone Wars went 7 seasons and that we've gotten Rebels as an offshoot and Bad Batch, and now this show, I feel like we're still not even scratching the surface of what the prequels set up. Like, what about everything else that's going on in Coruscant and all those other planets? And even just a moment like Order 66, like now we're seeing what it was like for a Padawan and the ramifications for that whole life of that Padawan. Her point of view of Anakin coming at her and killing her friends. And it's just mind-blowing on a level I can't, there's nothing else does that like Star Wars for me, which is like thrilling when you get another viewpoint on something you already know from it. That's what Reva is to me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to go kind of rapid fire through a couple of other characters. So I'm going to sort of throw the character out there. Anybody can say what they want to say about it. If you have nothing to say about it, I'll say something about it, then we'll move on to the next one. So
sounds good.
Let's go Uncle Owen. All right, I guess I'm taking this one. All right, here we go.
Okay, you go.
Uncle Owen. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I think what this series did in such a beautiful way was humanize Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. They're no longer just obstacles in Luke's way. They are people who deeply, deeply care about their nephew, and they want the best for him, even if that means sometimes they make the wrong choice. And I think we can probably agree that Owen is wrong to try and keep Luke around in A New Hope when Luke so clearly for his own life needs to get out there. But it's not coming from a place of meanness. It's not coming from a place of nastiness. It's coming from a place of love that Owen just wants to protect his nephew. He wants to protect his son. And that's what we see in this episode when Reva shows up and says, you know, you love him like he's your own. And Owen says, he is my own. And so Owen will literally ready to die to protect Luke. And so even though he's making the wrong choice in A New Hope, it's coming from a good place. And so that doesn't mean he's doing the right thing, but it makes it a lot more understandable.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing here is that I really liked what they did with those, you know, both Owen and Beru, because it made them more understandable of where they're at you know, in A New Hope, and Beru being you know, a lot more, I don't know what it is, intuitive of maybe Luke being a very good person and he's gonna help a lot of people. I think Beru kind of sensed that a lot more. And the conversation at the dinner table in A New Hope, or dinner table, I don't know, the dinner hut cave, the dinner cave,
the dining dome.
The dining dome. Oh my god, someone has to make a restaurant called that. The dining dome.
Get right on that.
Copyright. I think it makes more sense of, you know, why Owen was just really being, you know, he is like, don't go out there, like, because he's so worried about him and he just wants Luke to be safe forever, which is kind of like a helicopter parent, if anything. And then Beru's like, he's got to go out there somewhere, like he's, you know, and has that belief in him. yeah, makes those characters understandable, and yeah, I really like their meaning and purpose in the show. I think it was really well done.
Absolutely. Tala.
Oh, I
Any
didn't
thoughts on
get to do
Tala?
my rapid fire on Owen.
Well, you ran. Should have spoken up. Should have spoken up when you had a chance.
Okay. Well, first of all, I love. Okay, so any parent really, love is selfless, right? So wanting only what your child wants is real love for themselves. It's not what you want for them. That you're just loving yourself. So Owen and Obi-Wan seem much more equal to me now. That's what happened. They both kind of make the mistake. They're kind of not really caring for Luke. They're wanting what they want for Luke. So they both have an arc to sort of let go and let Luke be the Luke wants to be. And yeah, but I just love it because the layer and the layers and the point of view now that he's more humanized. You know, especially when that moment where the best moment is when he says to Owen, to Obi-Wan, you know, do you want to meet him? That was great.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah. And then he said hello there. He said the thing.
He said the thing.
He said the thing.
Oh, let me get my guitar.
All right. Thoughts on Tala.
Tala. Oh, great. Just, I feel like she was very classic Star Wars character. You know, that classic, I seen one thing, but I'm going to be another. Very Agent Callus to me. So I'm sad that she died. I am sad that they killed her, but also I understand the purpose. Very Rogue One of a death, I would like to say. Very purposeful, you know, for them to be able to escape and do all that. But yeah, interesting addition, and I think she was enjoyable and interesting. And every time she spoke, I would always lean in and be like, what is she saying? And I'm not sure if she's a particularly quiet talker or it's because I was really interested. But I was always interested in what she had to say because it was always something just very subtle about the direction of the Empire and the rebellion and helping and who the pathways, what other you know, it's always very interesting what she had to say. But yeah, love that character. I thought she was really cool.
Dan?
Yeah, especially that she added another point of view on another major theme in Star Wars, especially recent Star Wars, which is, and it was even in the Clone Wars. I mean, it's all of Star Wars. It's Darth Vader, but like that Clone Wars, the Mortis episode where Shmi says, or the cookie says, your guilt doesn't define you, you define your guilt. So this is another, she really served a great purpose there of showing her own guilt and how she's using that to she's defining that by choosing to become a better person and to use her mistakes to then live every day to help people. So, and how that helped, and how she served the story in Obi-Wan for Obi-Wan to find that within himself too. I thought that was great.
It. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's more like that Rogue One kind of nuance to gray areas of characters and how they get involved in either the Empire or the Rebellion. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of that in Wednesdays suck now, but like Andor starting on the 31st.
less than 2 months to go. Yeah. August 30th. It's just around the corner. You both mentioned Rogue One with her. She reminded me of Bodhi. In the sense that this is a character who we're kind of has already made the big choice in their life, and now we're seeing the ramifications of it. We're seeing the aftermath of it. We're seeing the implications of it on who they are and you know how much longer they get to live. But the fact that they made the right choice and they sacrificed themselves for something important, which is both what happened to Bodhi and what happened to Tala. And Indira Varma's performance was just magnificent. Roken.
We're definitely going to get more of him. That was a backdoor pilot if I ever see one. My goodness, you're going to be a great leader, Roken. Keep going. And I'm like, well, that's Roken series. Here we come. No, but yeah, fantastic character. Obviously got lots of vigor, lots of fight in him, which I'm never gonna get sick of rebellion stories and people joining the rebellion and being a part of the start and the spark of the rebellion. So I think he was a great addition. I would have liked him more, to be honest. I would have liked him introduced probably earlier, so we could get a bit more information and excuse me, of where he came from, because I felt like when we met him, that was very fast. That was very quick. Like, it was just like, oh, hey, this is Roken. Okay, let's go break into this thing now. It was okay. You know, I feel like I would have liked just a bit of a slower paced meeting of him, because I thought he was a really interesting character. That's my take of him. Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, well, good. You know, Star Wars is good when it makes you want more. So I'm really hoping we see more of Roken, like in tie-ins and in Andor. Or I think I just more than the character is the actor, like Ice Cube's son. Like I just think he's awesome. Like if you've seen the NWA movie, Straight Out of Compton, right? I have the extended version, and I love it. And he does such a great job of acting his father at a younger age. So just think he just had like a fresh, real vibe that kind of lit up the screen when he was on, which was a pleasure to watch. And so like I want more of that. Yeah, like a zing. Yeah. Like there's something
zing, like, hey, let's go. Come on, Obi-Wan. Don't, dawdle. Don't just be sad, mate. Like, let's go. I know why he's really Australian.
Yeah. Those were direct quotes from season 2.
That was my thing, mate. That guy just kind of like pops off the screen. So more of him, please.
Yeah,
absolutely. If that really is the backdoor pilot for a Roken show, I am absolutely here for it.
And a Jordan cosplay.
Yeah. And a Jordan cosplay.
Jordan could be the stunt double. Yeah.
Stunt double.
Yeah.
Yes.
1 for 1. Exactly like him.
And Jordan is the one making that joke loudest, we should point out.
Yes.
Of course, I wouldn't say that.
Should point out, Jordan is making the joke loudest. We are merely echoing his joke.
We are just supporting his belief.
Yes.
I thought he was being serious that he really wanted to cosplay. No?
No. Yeah. That he is deathly serious about.
Yeah, that's why.
The stunt double stuff. I don't know how serious he is being.
No, I mentioned being a stunt double because Jordan was like, he wants more characters like Roken in Star Wars, and he wants to cosplay him. So yes, Jordan. Yeah. I'm expecting cosplay of Roken at the next Star Wars celebration. Yeah.
Haja, the fake Jedi.
Oh my God, what I didn't know that there could be a Star Wars character like him in Star Wars, but my God, is it not the best Star Wars character that's ever been on screen?
Yeah,
he is so funny, and so like how they used it to be another wonderful, sublime Star Wars emotional moment when it all leads up to him, Obi-Wan asking him to take care of Leia, and then he says, "Well, I give you my word, I will, but it's the word of a liar and a fake Jedi." And then when Obi-Wan says, "Well, that's good enough for me," my God,
good enough for me.
Yeah,
absolutely. I had a similar experience with him and Roken because I wanted more. Like, I feel like they could have spent more time just peppering him throughout each episode, because I think he was a really interesting character.
Yeah, a spin-off show of Haja and Roken where they leave off from this point on.
That's true. They're together at this point. Yeah, oh my God.
Oh, that would be... Oh my God, that would be incredible.
Oh my God.
Babysitting business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. That I've been critical of some Star Wars humor in the past. I still don't like the Yo Mama jokes at the beginning of Last Jedi, but Kumail Nanjiani pretending to be a Jedi is something I didn't think I would like, but was beautiful and hilarious and phenomenal on screen. So Haja is a phenomenal character. Loved every second we got of him on screen.
You know, we go for it because it's not just fun, but it's serving the story on such a great, profound emotional level. That's why I don't like the humor of I love all of Taika Waititi's work except for the Stormtrooper humor at the end of the season 1 of Mandalorian, because it's not serving the story at all. Like, what's the point of those jokes?
Yeah. But in this show, it did. It served the story very nicely. The Grand Inquisitor, the near miss at a canon meltdown.
See, I'm gonna say the same thing. Every character, we should have got more of him. He was great. Rupert, fantastic performance. What a character. His performance was fantastic, and I just would have loved so much more of him. An interesting path to go down to the. We killed him, and then no one talks about him for 4 episodes, and then he's back now. Interesting route to go, but I don't have major problems with it, and I hope we see him in something again, some sort of. I don't know if he'll fit in something like Andor, but something else again.
The Grand Inquisitor hunts Roken and Haja for a spin-off show.
Yes.
Instead of a season 2, we just take all of those characters and say, let's come up with something new with them.
Absolutely, yes, that's what we need.
Well, I mean, the numbers are really high for. I think season 2 is pretty likely, given Neil's comments and the numbers and stuff.
Yeah,
I think we'll
seems likely. Your thoughts on the Grand Inquisitor, Dan?
Number hours do wonders for continued dreamless seasons, don't you think? Yeah. I love the way he talks. His acting is so like. I think Rupert did something that it's hard for me to talk about because I don't know how else to say it, but to like. There's like a dangerous kind of like it's not. I don't know how to say it, but it's like he just made it so kind of sexy being an Inquisitor. Like
I don't know what you were gonna say, but I didn't guess it was gonna be sexy.
Like
maybe Grand Inquisitor sexy.
Like not I mean it in a profoundly scary way too.
It's like
attractive. Like
no. It's like the fire. It's like a fireman's calendar, but with the Inquisitors, he'd be on the cover.
Oh my god.
Like a siren song. Like, it's not real or good, but you're like, it sounds great.
Yeah, it's drawing you
like
in.
That?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the things that I go through phases where I sort of obsessively research historical eras, and one is World War II, and specifically the lead up to it, of the factors that's horrible factors, myriad of them, that allowed what happened in World War II to happen. And I don't mean sexy in the Inquisitor in terms of like, I mean it more metaphorically, that there's like the way he delivers his performance is to show that there's that the bad guys aren't just like ugly, horrible monsters, but there's this intrigue, this like sort of, he talks in a very compelling way, and he just looks very kind of
poised
into it and poised, and there's kind of like a metaphorical sex appeal to how he's presenting the job of an Inquisitor or the role of an administrator in the Empire.
I know.
Yeah. I kind of don't think we've seen yet in Star Wars, and I think he added that to a Star Wars villain, that element that we haven't had before. And I think that was part of what must have made the Empire scary. And because people were joining it because it was attractive. And that is what happened in Germany. That those outfits and those leather and the whole thing, and they had like a fashion designer design their outfits. There was like this, it looked appealing. And that is, I think it's important that we don't forget that can be presented in a way, and it has in the past in our history, that looks appealing to people. So be on the lookout for people like the Inquisitor, because I don't know. It's hard for me to talk about that because it's kind of like a touchy thing to talk about Germany. But I feel like his representation of that was that.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Like
sure.
he would walk on, he'd be a public face of the Inquisitors, walking on, walking into a room or walking, where he's just presenting that appealing nature of it, and it's very dangerous.
For sure.
No, I totally agree.
For sure. Final one. We touched on this a little bit, but when we talked about Uncle Owen, but we might as well end with Aunt Beru, the badass with the blaster, the one the one who actually wants to fight and not run. Tremendous stuff from Bonnie Peace to come back to this role, especially after everything that she's been through in her life, and kick ass the way that she did and turn Beru, even if it annoyed that one guy behind us, into a badass, because that's what she's always been and what she always should be.
Well, I could say this one really quick. It's great because it makes you see when Aunt Beru says to Owen, he can't stay on the farm forever. Like, that's her showing, she's the matriarch. That's her resolve. Like, she's tough, she's in charge, and that is showing that part of her character when she gets the gun and she's telling Owen where to go, and then the line that I love the best, because it's her willingness to say something that's that Owen doesn't want to hear, like she does in A New Hope, that Owen and Luke can't stay on the farm forever. She says, he's like Ben's not here anymore, and she's like, whose fault is that? Yeah. And if you spend much time on it, you kind of can miss it, but this little dig, I like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Her fighting spirit really shows so much of who she is, and it honestly feels like her whole life has led up to this moment of being this mother for Luke and being this leader of this family, small family, but she is a leader in her own context. And we don't get too much of her, and we don't get her too much in A New Hope, but she's still very powerful, I think. And I think she's still very stands for a lot. What she stands for says a lot. So I know we will never get this, but I really want to show about Beru and where she comes from. Why is she that badass? What makes her like that?
Yes. You've changed your name on screen to hashtag We Are All Beru.
We're all Beru. That's what I'm standing by at the moment, because we all have that fighter inside ourselves and beings. We just need to break it open. We are all Beru.
Absolutely.
I'm living by.
That little moment shows that point in A New Hope too, where she's not agreeing with Owen all the time about how
I'll shout out the From a Certain Point of View, A New Hope novel. I think it was Ray Carson wrote a tremendous little Aunt Beru short story, and that I feel fits in very tonally with what with the portrayal we got here.
I'm gonna check that out. That's also cool.
Give it a read. All right. I think that's it. I think we've covered a lot. I won't say we've covered it all, but we've covered a lot. Yeah. And I think with that, we can begin to wrap things up for this bonus episode of the Kenobi Castaways.
You've offended him by playing your
No. This just didn't play in the rock and roll.
I'm using the Force.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for listening. Of course, make sure you come back and tune in to the weekly Star Wars Underworld podcast each and every week, recorded live Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, and then released on your podcast feeds pretty much immediately thereafter. So it's there for you on Friday morning, at least on this side of the world. I'm not sure what it is on the other side of the world. Hannah's just sort of shrugging.
I think it's like Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon. That's a good time to listen to a Star Wars podcast.
It's pretty good, yeah. It's good timing.
Sure. But I hope everybody enjoyed this special return of the Monday shows, And who knows, once we hit the end of September and there are episodes of Andor and The Bad Batch airing at the same time, might be bringing back the Monday show. Might be bringing back the Monday show again. So stay tuned.
That's really dumb. Sorry, bad dad joke. Bad dad joke.
God.
I don't know. But that'll do it. Thank you everybody for listening. Din, thank you for hosting, derailing, guesting, and suggesting this episode of the podcast.
Well, you're welcome. Those are all my specialty. Do I plug something? What do
yes,
I do?
plug away.
Okay, so F105, yes, we just released F105 3, and it's on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you get your music, and you can go to those links at f105music.com, and all the social networks are at F105music. Please definitely follow on Instagram and Spotify. Those two places you can hear the music and then also keep up to date with everything we're doing.
Nice.
Check out the video of our Hannah and me playing Desert Planet in Anaheim.
Completely spontaneous.
Yeah. It was fantastic. And it's great. It's great performances by the two of you, but I think the Ron Burgundy impression at the end really sells the whole thing. Really makes it work.
What you need in any song is you need a real baritone crooner. Like you added.
Like it was impressive. It was impressive how low you went. Whoa. It's like whoa. Okay.
That's what I do. I bring things down, literally. Hannah, thank you very much for being on this episode. Plug away. What do you want to plug?
Thank you so much. It's always good to talk all our deep thoughts and feelings, especially about this deep and thoughtful show. If you want to follow me on social media, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the same handle of @Raeside Walker, RAESIDEWALKER. Raeside Walker, or one word. I just talk about Star Wars over there, and I have random thoughts. The other day, I went on a massive tangent about what if Padme never died and she was like a single mother of both the kids. So, if you want to have off-the-wall Star Wars theory discussions, I'm over there doing that. But yeah, follow me all over there if you want that.
Definitely follow at Raeside Walker, and you can follow me at Dominic J25 on Twitter and Instagram, but mainly Instagram because I don't like Twitter anymore. That's not very fun. Although maybe I'll get Instagram's. I know like they've done research that Instagram is worse for you, but I find it a more enjoyable experience. So I don't know what that says about me. So that is going to do it. Make sure you're tuned in again to the weekly Star Wars Underworld podcast. Make sure you're listening to F105 Music. Make sure you're following at Raeside Walker, and just having fun talking about Star Wars at all times, because that's what all of this is about. So for Din, for Hannah, for Ben and Chris, who are not here, and all the other wonderful people at the Star Wars Underworld, my name is Dominic, and may the Force be with you.
Always.
Just let it come. Just like a planet around ourselves.
It's a wrap.